Howdy, friends and floor heads. It is Thursday night and it is Malifaux night. Hey, Nick Westbrook, how are you, buddy? And we're going to do a little bit of 10 Thunders action. It's another pool party. If you've missed the other ones that we've done, you can go to our YouTube channel. We have all of the previous pool parties there. We've done Rezzers, we've done Arcanists, and now it's time for 10 Thunders. Hey, Maeve. So, up above me is Landon. Landon, how are you?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Good, man. When did you find Malifaux?
Malifaux, I found right around wave 4 of second edition. I was living with my roommate Brian at the time from Skeens and Scones fame, and he met Kyle. Magic happened there. Everyone knows that love story. Um, but uh, I was looking for something to do because the two of us have been living together, but we didn't do a lot together. So Malifaux was just kind of how I ended up bonding with him and to a certain extent, which moving out the next year, all the way back to Illinois, kind of made it difficult at first. We were going to think for me to continue playing Malifaux, but luckily there's a great store, Games Plus, that I go to regularly. I've met some really good locals there, and that's really how I got more into the competitive end of it.
Very cool. And then just below me is Brian. Brian, how are you?
I'm doing all right.
So, welcome to the show. How did you find Malifaux?
Uh, Tail end of Mark 2 as well. Got into it, went to PAX Unplugged actually,
Nice.
and actually bought it in Misaki at that con. It fell out with War Machine and a few others because that just kind of dried up in the area. So we found something else to play for a while, and I've been sticking with it. Still play the others, but Malifaux's now the main one.
Very cool. All right, guys. So here is the premise of the pool parties. It's a little bit of a different way to look at a faction. So normally when you go to a tournament, you'll look at a pool and you'll say, what is the best master or keyword for this pool? And there's nothing wrong with that. And there's a million different podcast episodes out there that are devoted to, to picking the right master and keyword for a particular pool. What we do here is a little bit backwards. And what we end up with is a very interesting overview of the faction itself. So Landon and Brian, instead of them looking for the best masters for the pool, they're going to pick the best pool for each of the 10 Thunders masters. And these are going to be the original OG masters, not the new titles. So I think we should just get started. So the first master that we're going to do is the one that nobody, including myself, including myself, does a great job of pronouncing. Landon, how do you pronounce Yuko or Yoko?
I go with Yoko based on the idea that it's, the YO then elongated by the U, and then, KO. Um, that's at least how I view it.
All right. So we've got four pools. We've got a turf war standard. We've got a ley lines and corner. We've got a symbols flank and a break the line. Where do you think she performs best in which pool?
I think if I were to pick one of these four pools for Yoko, I would go with the Turf War on standard. Um,
All right.
the
So walk me
reason
through the
being,
thinking there.
yeah, the reason being for that then is that she's pretty decent at hidden martyrs. You get a significant totem with a cost of 2, so you can pick pretty much any model in your crew that you hire, regardless of how much it costs. If you really wanted to, you could even pick Yasunori, but no one's hired that model in forever. Um, so right away, you've got a pretty decent scheme there. In addition, with the pass tokens and activation control, it helps you score the endpoint as well. Let Them Bleed's a bit dicier for her, but with a couple out of keyword picks, you can fix that up. I usually like a Low River Monk for the crew for reasons that I could go into if I had more time, but basically, it's a good target to distract so you can get pass tokens. Spread them out's kind of okay. Build denies most marker schemes pretty good, so it's not necessarily one that you're looking to score for her, but it's one that if you're playing and your opponent brings a crew and he's like, I'm going to play spread them out, you put Bill on the table and you're like, no, you're not. And then you've got enough lures if you go that route to play bait and switch. And with pass tokens, you can usually get a end of activation, catch release, and to win initiative, get them away. So I like the schemes for her. I like the playstyle of Turf War with Yoko, and that most common consensus on Turf War is that it's better if your models are on their half the table than yours.
Yeah.
And with Hinamatsu and Bill, you can get onto their half of the table really, really fast. If you just push Hinamatsu up the board with either like a out of keyword kitty, or you lure it up with an in keyword Beckoner, or not Beckoner, Geisha,
Mm-hmm.
and then Bill just charges Hinamatsu, hits Hinamatsu with the mask for "You're coming with me," places on the other side of Hinamatsu. He's like 10, 11 inches up the board at this point to then heroic intervention into something. You're already on his half the board in standard deployment at that point in time. And then you got a Hinamatsu who's now 10 inches up the board following right behind you. So you get in there fast. You've got hidden martyrs and a bunch of other different schemes to score while you're tabling the guy. That's why I think she's pretty good there. I don't like her in pools with Assassinate just because her core mechanic requires her to be in the middle of everyone.
Yeah.
So I was immediately turned off the other two pools for that reason. And
Was the
then she
break
does
the
some.
line tempting for you?
So break the line, normally I would consider it, right? But the thing that really put me off it here, as far as it being the best pool, is it's got research mission in it, and she doesn't interact with that in any way. I feel like research mission is such a powerful scheme that if you're not interacting with it, you're either leaving points on the table or you're just letting your opponent have 2 free points.
Yeah. Yeah. How about for you, Brian? Where did you end up putting her?
It was actually the same two pools, but I did actually put her in the break the line pool.
Uh-oh. What pushed you
Uh,
over that edge?
I just really I didn't like him for a long time, but for a lot of the reasons, you can get into the other half pretty fast. So you're up at the middle point. She can kind of control one half herself, and then lets a Bunraku or two take over the really flank ones with their bonus action. They can flip the marker twice per turn with not a lot of issues. And if you keep in the cards or with Lust and a few other things, you normally have the cards to be able to make them defense 7 pretty easily most of the time. Research mission is hard, but if you just kind of pressure them enough, you can normally keep them on their side so they can't even get close enough to drop whatever markers they need for their side. And with Bill keeping off ski markers, you deny a lot of the detonator breakthrough, while being able to do yours because I can get over to their side pretty quick.
All right. So next up is Yanlo. So before we do this, we got to imagine a world where you would play Yanlo 1, not Yanlo 2, right? All right. So we're going to play Yanlo 1. And we'll start with you, Brian. Where did you find he would be best? What pool is the best for Yanlo 1?
So for Yanlo 1, Goku's and Kamino are still great. Goku's are probably better, and I'm probably saying that wrong. But super durable crew that can get around the board, I actually chose the Turf War. Just because Goku is, like I said, for hidden martyrs, they're gonna want to probably try to take them off the board, because they can do a lot of work. You can spread out, you can lay ski markers if you still need to, um, and you can kind of table your opponent. Yan Lo comes up a little late to finish a lot of things off, so you keep him back, but the rest of the crew gets up and kind of holds that center pretty easily. So I kind of put him on turf war for my opinion.
I like it. How about for you, Landon? Where did you end up putting Yanlo?
I ended up putting Yan Lo in Corrupted Ley Lines
Interesting.
for a good variety of reasons. Firstly, being that every, like, a third of the models in his crew just deny it so well. Yan Lo himself pushes people off ley lines. Yin pushes people off ley lines. Chiaki lures people off ley lines. You got a lot of different options for denial there, which will help you create a bigger spread in points. Um, it's got Assassinate. I've never had Yan Lo die in a game of playing him for like 2 years. I set out as a man on a mission at the start of GG1 to get Yan Lo nerfed. It worked, but it didn't work enough. Um, so I very much have experience with that regard. It's corner. He's very fast. He unpacks
Yeah.
well between Chiaki and his own pushes. So that was also a factor that went into it. Breakthrough is amazing when you've got Manos and Yin. Um, Deathbeds is just easy points, especially on diamond deployment where you just have to, for the endpoint, have 2 scheme markers on the center line. That's not tough. And with models like Yin, where you can just bonus action interact to get the marker down next to a strategy marker, it's not that hard to score points. Spread them out, whatever. Outflank is whatever. I don't really see outflank as much of a scheme. But if someone did, you could pretty easily deny it just by killing all their stuff
Yep.
in one of the corners. And then you've just got some really good, fast in-keyword models to just run the ball. We call it football around here. So you've got
Yeah, I
like
think most people.
Gokudo, who can just walk bonus action. They get from one marker to the next. And you just don't even have to go out a keyword for the Waynudo because you've already got such tanky and keyword options for it. So
Right.
I really think he's best here versus the other pools.
Is
It's
there?
a
Oh,
very
go ahead,
good pool. I'd say the only reason I didn't put him in there is a lot of the pushes I end up playing in against crews that have, let's say, planted roots, so it's a lot harder to deny. So I end up having to kill them instead of pushing them off or trying to obey. But it is a very strong one for him.
So as good as he is there one of these where you definitely would not want to have Yanlo, or do you think he could perform in all four of these?
You know, it's funny because I feel like the pool I would play him in the least amount of times if we were to go and play all these four pools would be Turf War. Um, so I found that a little humorous. Just because he schemes so well, I would definitely
Yeah,
be willing to play him in both symbols and break the line very frequently. In Turf War, you just have a lot of reasonable options, and I don't think the way that I score Turf War as a strategy typically works all that well with the pattern of how I pilot Yanlo.
that's fair. That's fair. How about for you, Brian? Is there one here that you really would never put Yanlo into?
That is always a very hard question,
It is.
because if with Thunders, it's kind of like I just slot this one extra model in or this different model that I have out keyword to out keyword, and it makes almost everything always doable
Right.
with any master. But no, I really don't. Maybe symbols, just
Well, you don't have to
but you
force it,
do
Brian. If
have
you think he would do well in
monos.
all of them, that's okay. That's all
Yanlo
right.
goes in all fields.
All right. So Landon, you're up next with our favorite kung fu master.
Shenlong. All right. For Shenlong, I decided that I would also put him into Turf War just like I put Yoko. For very different reasons,
I
though.
was about to say, I'm anxious to hear this.
So, firstly, I'll start with just at the top Hidden Martyrs. Shenlong plays it reasonably well just because he has a lot of models in that middle range that you don't mind taking one or two of. Like I'll typically put at least a Wandering River Monk on Hidden Martyrs, maybe two.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and going back to Wandering River Monk, we've gone so far from him, is that I think they're also excellent models for catch and release because they have Deadly Pursuit,
Mm-hmm.
um, which again makes them excellent for martyrs as well because you can just not be representing it at all throughout the middle of the turn. Suddenly that henchman comes close enough, push 4 inches. Oops, I scored points. Um, so for that reason, I like them. But then the second point is that this pool, just looking at it, is not one in which you ever have to cross the center line to get your points. Three of the
Point.
strategy points are on your half the board or the center line. And looking at the schemes, we have Hidden Martyrs, Let Them Bleed, Spread Them Out's the only one where you have to be on the opponent's side. Bait and Switch, you score on your side explicitly, and then Catch and Release, where you have to end the game with your Wandering River Monk on the center line, not hard. So
Yeah.
for like a pool like this, I played it 1,000 times in GG1. You just take Fuhatsu, maybe not so much now that Fuhatsu's been nerfed, but you still probably take him for this,
He's still
and
very
just
good.
shoot across the edge of the board with pushing him around, and you just force your opponent to walk into the firing lane, which is then guarded by Shenlong himself, who beats the crap out of anything that dares to approach. Um, so that would be why I like him here so much.
Yeah, I think it's neat that you've picked two different masters for that pool for two different reasons, which is pretty cool. How about you, Brian? Where does Shenlong fall for you? What is the best pool for Shenlong?
Honestly, for the same reason that Landon took Yan Lo into corner ley lines, I actually took Shenlong into corner ley lines. One of the things, the Four Winds punch is amazing with all the pushes and dropping ski markers.
Yeah.
So it can help clear out the. have a feeling we'll see a lot of difference in play styles coming out between myself and Landon.
That's
Because
good.
it seems like almost exact, sometimes opposite. But uh, normally, I do play a lot of his crew and very upfront. I specifically don't take Fuhatsu just because my meta area got bad touched away too many times, and I wanted to keep things very healthy and friendly. So I said I would never bring him again unless I go to tournaments or out of keywords. So it's very good, but he can do assassinate very well. Wandering River Monks get breakthrough or spread them out super easy, and actually the outflank that no one is expecting can actually come out of the Shenlong's crew because no one takes it except for when you have a bunch of 5 and 6 cost models that you can just expend to go out to the sides of the board.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So next up is this is your boo, isn't it? Misaki?
Yes, she's who I started with way
She's the
back
one that
in
got
the
you
Mark
into the
II.
game. So looking at all these four pools, Brian, where does she go? Where is she best placed?
I tend to play her with a little bit of control and scalpel. Um, I don't know. I would have played her into Leyline's corner.
Okay.
Um, Manaka Ray is great into Leylines. I tend to right off the back drop 2 shadow markers and just keep Manaka Ray, move her up to one of the symbols or one of the giant pillars, the strategy markers, and then she'll summon Katashiro for me. So getting to that first one, summoning some Katashiro, which can help with breakthrough,
Did you
some of the
say
other
I'm sorry, did you
things.
say ley lines or or symbols?
Play lines.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
Corner. I know I said symbol, so I had to
Oh,
correct
okay.
myself.
All right.
But you put it right.
Okay, good.
Katashiro get spread them out and breakthrough very easily. Like I said, you can summon them. They can still score outflank, which no one really expects, and I don't normally take anyways. And then she's just great at assassinate. And being able to force Monokore, whoever, to charge to get around if need be, um, is just generally where I'd play her. And actually, I'd probably take deathbeds because and someone's going to be next to a shadow marker that Ototo or her can kill.
How about for you, Landon? Where did you end up finding a good spot for her? Where is she performing best? What's her favorite pool of these four?
You gave us some good foreshadowing because I chose symbols.
Look at that.
Um,
It's another good one.
so this pool just seems like an absolute home run for Misaki for me. I was a little surprised that you didn't think the same.
I
As
did.
Apparently
That's why
subconsciously.
I was like, symbols is great, but I just like, I don't know. I'm tired of symbols, maybe.
I'm also tired of symbols, but I could go on another rant about that. But at least for talking about symbols for this, Misaki plays it really well just because she herself is so flexible between jump between front and back line. And that's something I think is very valuable in symbols because you don't know necessarily with every matchup that you're going to be able to grab one of their symbols with any certainty. Uh, so sometimes you need to have Misaki go kill a guy guarding it to pick up a symbol. Sometimes you need to have Misaki go kill their schemy guy because everybody brings the same template, tanky scheming henchman that leaves engagement. And so having someone that can firstly catch him and secondly kill him is really good. But especially when you can also then jump right back into the fight into a scoring position. So I think she actually excels pretty hard at that, which is me getting really excited about a master I don't really like to get excited about. So it should tell you, I really think she's good at this. Um, and then research mission is just a home run when you make shadow markers, you kill people, and then there's already strategies on the board. If you're desperate, you'll drop a scheme marker. Um, bait and switch, she's okay with. Um, I mean, they can't deny your second point if they're dead. And you mentioned you like her for assassinate. I agree. If your master's never on the board, they're never scoring assassinate. And when she is on the board, she's just so hard to get to at 6/7 extended reach.
Yeah, the extended reach is great.
Yeah. And with Minako, claim jump gets a little harder because you can just throw Katashiro after Katashiro into the center, and you're gonna have a fine time just denying that. I
Yeah.
don't think I'd ever take it with the Misaki crew, but like I've already said we've got two great schemes, and then spread them out. Whatever. If you want to, you can try to go for it with the guys who run around. Uh, this should tell you how much I play Misaki. That
Torakage, I'm
iconic
guessing.
6-stone minion, that the Torakage. That's it.
Yeah.
You can try and score that with Torakage, but I don't think you will in a symbols pool.
Well, obviously, our next episode is why spread them out and outflank are the two best schemes nobody takes. That's apparently going
Spread
to
them
be.
out is actually pretty easy with some of Thunders. Getting those
Yeah.
Katashiro, they can go anywhere with that
It's
free
not
leap.
the worst. It's just expensive.
All right, Landon. Let's switch gears a little bit and let's go to Miss Mei Feng. Where does Miss Mei Feng find her home? Of all of
Back
these
to
four,
back.
what's her
My two
favorite?
least played masters. All right, Break the Line is what I went with for Mei Feng. I've never been a big fan of the original Mei Feng, but here's why I think she's great at Break the Line. She has the ability to be in multiple places on the board at once, so long as you've already been there. And with Break the Line, you want to cover a lot of ground towards the center and edges of the table. So you don't have to go deep, you have to go wide. And I think Mei Feng's great at going wide. So you've got that going for her. You have some good offensive repositions in the crew to free up Break the Line markers. You've got some pretty decent big guys and area control with Sparks making hazardous to try and make sure that if they're going to approach Break the Line markers, it's going to be expensive. And for the schemes, you've got research mission. You're dropping scrap everywhere. You've already got strategies. That means all you have to do is drop scheme marker. That's not terrible. And you're going to be able to do that for 2 points most games. You're pretty tanky, so you're going to be able to survive whatever fights you get into and keep 3 models alive for research mission at the end. As far as the rest of the schemes go, you're probably looking at, I don't know, breakthrough or catch and release, depending on what you bring, what your opponent brings. Detonate charge is always on the table for Thunders if you just hire a Huckster, so you can make do.
Yeah.
But really, the reason I picked her for this pool is just because I think she plays the strategy well enough with the mobility inherent to ride the rails.
How about for you, Brian? Where did she end up?
This I struggled a lot because I also never really liked original Mei Feng much. She was great, but I never had a lot of success. I actually went Break the Line flank as well for the first time,
Our
doubling
first
down.
agreement.
I know.
And
A
for
lot
all
of
the
the same
same
reasons.
reasons, or some new reasons?
Mostly the same reasons. Again, detonate charges, and for trying to stay mainly in keyword, if you take like one model, the Huckster, you can almost very easily get that. And then breakthrough, if you really need to, the mechanized pork chop can run out there by himself once he gets going. It's in flank, so it's actually decently easy to do. Research mission is easy, but most of the time I'd probably take catch and release. A metal gammon is very sturdy to be able to get in there and then ride the rails out.
Interesting.
Normally won't die unless they get it. There's normally somewhere you can get to.
Right.
Most people tech into the armor, but the metal gammon they aren't really too worried about. So when you bring that against the non-combat henchman or someone along the lines, normally works.
All right, so let's talk about McCabe, Brian. McCabe 1, where do you think he is best?
All of them.
McCabe 1's good, man.
McCabe for me is one of he's the master I know the most about. He's the most I play the most and could easily solo him into, if this was a 4-round tournament, take him into all of them. What did I actually decide he was? But flank symbols is where he went. With desperate in keyword research mission, and spread them out with hucksters. It's just all around easy points.
Yeah.
I'd probably tech in maybe Bill just to try to stop, spread them out or something, or claim jump. But I could almost say just in keyword and take him in that pool alone. The reduced target numbers for McCabe 1 makes those hucksters super deadly.
Does assassinate bother you at all, or does that excite you with McCabe?
It's not bad. He can get out of trouble pretty easily and just stay away. I end up using him as a glorified giant scheme runner that shoots from the edges most of the time. He's not the melee beat stick he used to be, but he gets other people around, and being able to do slow and stunned and run around the edges of a keyword is still great.
Yeah. Yeah. How about for you, Landon? Where did old McCabe end up?
I actually went with break the line, but it was a tough choice between that and the ley lines for me at this point in time.
Interesting. What pushed you over the edge?
I think what ended up pushing me over the edge was the lack of assassinate and the existence of detonate charges.
Okay.
So in keyword hucksters with reduced TNs, detonate charges, in most out of keyword crews, you have to ask yourself if you're going to have an 8 and a 6 by the end of the turn when you want to score detonate. And a lot of the time, when I was playing the original McCabe, even the answer was no. Um, but sometimes you can find it for a crew, right? But with a 6 and a 4, easy. I can either top deck that or I can just hold the 6. You're going to find a 6 and a 4. Um, then research mission is still pretty okay. You still make scrap, you still have strategy, there's still schemes. Or you might just kill someone. Research mission is just really easy. Um, and then on diamond deploy break the line, it's not too terribly difficult to try and spread out, throw a bunch of markers over early, and then just, try and scheme while your opponent's trying to catch up on strategy points. I think McCabe's crew can do that reasonably well and still play some disruption with the slow stagger on the net gun, um, the stunned stealing stones from Desper, or whatever out of keyword picks you want to do to try and gum people up. Um, and he doesn't have to run terribly too many henchmen for catch and release, so that's another plus.
Yeah.
Um, so that's
Yeah,
kind of
you
why I liked him
don't
there
even need
over
to
in the
take
ley
Sadir
lines.
in that list.
Yeah,
And then Desper's just hard to catch.
I don't even know that I would take Desper in this pool, to be honest.
Why
But
not?
I used to play a very out of keyword McCabe.
What would keep you from using Desper? Why would you
I just
not?
don't identify a scheme here that I would really need Desper to score, and then he's a liability for catch and release. Maybe a matchup consideration would maybe bring in, like if I was playing against Hoffman or something. But otherwise, having one extra, not henchman on the board makes catch and release all that much harder. Um, I would take a huckster with those stones, or I would take an out of keyword model that could fight my opponent, like a Jorogumo, or some people like Kabuki. I haven't really tried Kabuki Cape too much, but in the right matchup, it would definitely crack it open. But yeah, I would just go for something a bit more fighty because looking at this pool, the only thing I need to score my schemes is 2 hucksters.
Right.
One
Yep.
for
I'd probably
breakthrough
take
or
a rough.
detonate, one for research mission.
What was that, Brian?
I'd say I'd probably take one of the horsemen just because of their bonus action at
Oh yeah, you're
reduced
definitely
DN.
taking one of the what do you call it? Rough Riders.
Yeah, like
All
I said,
right.
he could do any of those, so
Yeah.
it's not an issue.
All right. So let's go honey pot. Let's go to the casino, Landon. Where are we going to put Mr. Jacob Lynch?
Ley lines, easy.
Do
He's
you want
got
to
the
think about
obey.
it?
He's got the obey from Huggy, and that's really all she wrote. You cannot. There's maybe 1 or 2 things in the game that stop obey from taking people off landlines, and Huggy doesn't even care about concealment. So, um, slam dunk. That's the only place I ever found myself playing him in GG1 before, and I loved playing him there. Um,
Yeah.
he was kind of my niche dark horse pick, is I really loved playing him straight out of the book, but eventually people kind of caught on how you play into Lynch, and he stopped being good, like all that good. So I kept asking myself, what's my excuse to play Lynch? What's my excuse to play Lynch? It's ley lines. Um, he's also pretty good at breakthrough. I'm not going to say it's only the strategy because Kitty is an excellent model for breakthrough. You can go 12 inches. You're incorporeal. You don't give a crap about any terrain in your way. You drop the scheme marker. Bada bing, bada boom. Here's your point. Um, Assassinate's a little bit of a downer for me because I don't actually like playing Lynch into assassinate pools, but the
It's
relative
bad.
goodness of everything else still works. And depending on what crew you're playing into, sometimes assassinate's just some juicy bait to get them to come into the honeypot bubble.
Yeah.
So it's not even always bad. Even if they get the assassinate points, you can usually get a lot back. Um, and then I'd probably just take deathbeds because deathbeds is a pretty easy scheme on ley lines because you know that they are going to always have a model next to a strategy marker at the end of every turn. So it's not that hard to get a marker down there. And like I said, especially on diamond deploy, it's pretty easy to get 2 markers down on the center line. Spread them outs, whatever, outflanks, whatever.
I'm picking up a theme on Outflank. All right, Brian, where does Mr. Jacob Lynch fall for you?
I looked at it and my gut couldn't get away from the assassinate in two of the pools. I've had him
Mhm.
die just so many times,
Yeah.
even inside his bubble, just getting shot to death.
Oh, that's fair.
Um, I ended up going with Turf War. It isn't the greatest. I don't think he's amazing into any of these because of some of the schemes in them.
Right.
But because he does have a nice little death bubble, and with actually for some of the same reasons Landon said he wanted Shenlong in that pool, you don't really have to cross for most of your points. You can stay mainly in your bubble for a lot of it,
Yep.
and keep the death coming, and kind of keep him hidden because assassinate to me is almost two free points for the opponent. He gets shot so much time when I play him into it. He doesn't
Well,
have enough defense tech.
what if for symbols and ley lines I took out the assassinate? Would that have pushed him over to one of those two, or would you keep him here in turf war?
Ugh, I always just harken back to M2E Lynch, so that's maybe also why I don't play him much now. But I would probably keep him there.
Yeah.
Looking at, because yeah, I'd probably keep him in Turf War. Um, I you can take an out of keyword Yamaziko and give all your minions positive flips, so your illuminated in keyword are actually fairly decent models with Terrify and bonus to everything, and reliably putting out their blast markers. Uh, so I'd probably keep them in Tier 4.
All right, Brian. Last one, Miss Asami Tanaka. What pool is she best in?
I went with Brank, the line, and Flank for Asami. Um, Tengu are kind of like paper, and so are literally Katashiro. But Break the Line is super easy with her crew. Lots of you just gotta hire them initially, but then you just summon in your beaters to help deny. Um, and then research mission, you can get thanks to Obsidian Oni, you can drop some scrap markers and that on the other side. Detonate charges is another one where you have Tengu and Katashiro. Yokai, I know they're better with number two, but with Detonate, I might consider a Yokai just because they can pull that off themselves. And then breakthroughs in there, and you have so much speed to fly into the other side. Too many little models for them to stop all your scheming.
How about for you, Landon?
That was my second choice. My first choice was symbols, actually. Um, Not just because aesthetically I wanted two
Yeah,
masters
I
on
know.
every.
What the hell, dude?
Yeah, you had a fully.
No,
Oh
it just
man, I
kind of
should have
worked
picked
out
that one
that
too. It
way.
would have been two and
Um,
two.
because firstly with symbols, you've as you said with break the line, you've got a lot of fast schemers. They can't really stop them all. Tengu is just pretty good at it. And one of the reasons I think to myself, why do I want to play Asami, is because I want to play Amanozako. And Amanozako is a symbols machine
Yeah.
with, move six, flight, bonus action, interact, and able to take out any guards with these big 3, 4, 5 attacks that are on plus flips. She's just one of the best flankers in the game. And so that makes her very good at things like symbols.
I will
Um,
say it was a close second, but it's because I like playing her other henchmen out of nowhere, which most people don't play because it has deny resistance triggers, and deny soulstone use on her
Mm.
8 cost. I can't pronounce the name, but Agura.
Ohagaru Batari. Yeah, I don't think
Yeah,
I've ever hired her once, but I was tempted for one reason. I can't remember why. From the heavens, I think there was a matchup
yeah.
I thought about it, but
It's people don't expect. I've only hired her once or twice, but I always want to play her. So I'm like, I almost picked that one because assassinate, and like that
yeah,
would seem like the only reason I'd want to bring her because she can deny soul stones and deny resistance triggers
yeah,
with
in,
diving charge.
in the right matchup, that can be really good. But I don't tend to take Asami into those matchups usually. But then going down the rest of the list, like I think Asami's really good because usually research mission involves some combination of scrap and corpse. And so the fact that when she summons, she just gets to mop those up, and that when she dies, she doesn't leave any, really makes her good into research mission pools. Um, that combined with the fact that there's not easy strategy markers for anyone to research mission with means that she's probably denying that most of the time. With bait and switch, you've got enough pushes from Asami herself that you might be able to, force someone to be on your half to score it. And you've got enough tricksy ways like just summoning a Akadame to just poop it out that people just might not see.
A double Akaname
Um,
summon in your face is also great.
which is also perfect for scoring research mission. One poops out a scheme, one poops out a scrap, one poops out a corpse. Whatever you need, whatever is there. So already she's got two schemes, pretty good. Assassinate. Some people like it with the or like to take it into Asami. I don't think it's super great into her just because she heals so well.
I was gonna say it's very
Um,
tempting, right? But
yeah, it's
doesn't
super
make it easy.
tempting. And the other reason why I don't think it's always a good idea to take it into Asami is even if you do kill Asami, if you haven't taken out the totem first, you have a bigger problem on your hand. Um,
Point.
the one thing that's got me excited about trying Lady Yume is that you can intentionally kill Asami with consume just so that you get more turns of the totem being an absolute monster. Haven't actually done it yet because I haven't been playing a ton of Asami ever since Burns came out, but definitely something I wanted to do. So I'm not all too fussed if my opponent wants to take Assassinate, but they'll probably get at least a point just from all the damage you do yourself. Claim Jump, you've got ways to push people out, and you still summon. Like, summoners are pretty good at Claim Jump just because you get to gum up the center so much. And then Spread Them Out. This is actually one of the masters I'll take Spread Them Out on just because you have so
Hmm.
many incidental bonus actions where it's just like, oh, I guess I'm on the center. I'll drop a marker. All right, I guess I'm going over here with my Tengu. I'll drop a marker, and then at
Yeah,
some
and so
point
many
you've got
cheap
markers
models to go
out.
out there and do it.
So
So extra AP
I'll
floating
usually
around.
take Spread Them Out with Asami. Um, so I think she's just pretty good at that pool.
Yeah. Yeah. So we take a step back now. We've put all the masters in what these two gentlemen think are their best pools. We get a sense of the coverage, which looks pretty decent, right? We've got a lot of about the same number of masters in each one of these pools. But now we're going to flip it real quick, and I'm going to force these guys to pick. And we'll start with the easy one for Brian. So Brian, are you going to choose McCabe or McCabe for your symbols flank?
I think I'll pick McCabe.
Good choice. Good choice. Now we're going to have a little bit of a tougher one for you, Landon. If you could only play either Misaki or Asami, which one would you put?
I think matchup is going to be a big question into that. Generically speaking, I think I would rather play Asami just because I like the master more. But I can very easily see if I was playing into something like a Zerata or something that I would want to play Misaki instead.
Sure.
Or just something that's going to have so many guns like Guild or Bayou.
All right. So let's go up from there. Let's look at Turf War. We'll go to you, Brian. You can only take either Lynch or Yanlo. Who are you taking into Turf War?
Oh, Yanlo. I'm definitely not. That's just more because I am not great with Lynch to begin with. Well, Lynch
Sure.
won. And Yanlo just is good, in my opinion.
Yeah.
2 was better, but Yanlo won. Don't forget about him.
All right. And how about for you, Landon? Of those two, which one are you taking into Turf War?
I'm going to sound like a broken record by the time we're done because I'm going to tell you it's a matchup consideration for me.
Sure.
Depends
I mean, that's
entirely on
that's
how much
part of what's
hard.
great about Malifaux, though, Landon, right?
Yeah,
Is that this, unlike a lot of other miniature games out where like we you can have an opinion here, and there's no it's not a solved game like a lot of
mhm,
other miniature games are, and there is no absolutes here. So don't be apologetic about it, but you don't know the matchup's going to be, so you have to pick
absolutely
one.
agreed. So if I had to pick one, I'd probably generically go with Shenlong. But the
Yeah.
consideration for me would be how much hard the wound I'm expecting to see. Like if I'm playing Rezzers, I'm 100% putting Yoko in there because you get a
Right.
lot of min threes with your keyword. You have Hinamatsu who will just chew through unarmored models. But blind going into it, Fuhatsu is just such a strong game plan for Turf War that's what I'm probably going to lean to in a vacuum.
All right, so let's go to the right then. Let's look at the corner corrupted ley lines. And Brian, will go with you. Is it going to be Shenlong or is it going to be Misaki? Who is the better of the two for this pool?
For specifically this one, they are both good, but that's just because I'd probably have to give the edge to Misaki. But for me, it's a comfortable level. I've played way too many games with Misaki compared to
Yep.
Shenlong. Um, and she can do enough of that easily enough and deny enough of it that I would take her over Shenlong and do almost anything. There'd be a few matchups I'd just say no to, but for the most part, Misaki can go into almost all of them.
All right. And for you, Landon, is it going to be Lynch or Yan Lo?
So in a vacuum, I'd say it's probably Yan Lo. He's just such a generically stronger master than Lynch is. I think the ability to just have an obey in the faction is a very strong tool to be able to whip out and say, well, if I'm expecting to see a bunch of planted roots, Yanlo's obviously not going to do the job denying the way I want to deny. But generically, Yanlo's just so much faster in this corner pool. He's got so much more damage to put out at range. So I think he's going to take the edge. And he doesn't have the weakness of Assassinate being in the pool because no one ever kills Yanlo.
Not
All right.
often.
So now we'll do. Oh, go ahead, Brian.
I was gonna say not often. It's very hard to take off Yan Lo.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about break the line. And let's do you, Brian, because you have 3 choices here. Of these 3, you can only take one. Which one are you taking into a flank break the line pool?
My go would be Asami. Just the amount of toolbox that she has in her own keyword, with the schemes that are there. I think she has very easy time doing those. It would just be how much can I deny my opponent, and with her pushes and to keep away catch and release, because I don't even need to take. If I don't want to, I don't have to take Amanazaku, and then I can just kill anything around her. Research mission, detonate, and breakthrough. She can do no problem with all of her minions. So
Yeah. All right. We got Mei Feng. We've got McCabe, Landon.
I would love to say that this is a matchup consideration for me once again, but I think in a vacuum, I'm going to hand it to uh, McCabe.
Yeah.
there
I
was
would
the right choice in that one landed.
I would love to say
That
Mei
one's his
Feng
fault.
because Mei Feng in the right matchup can take off, and I like her better in the sense that I think she's going to fight better and contest the strategy markers a bit more. But the reason why I edge out McCabe is that I think in a vacuum for most games, McCabe is going to be get a lot closer to 8 points than Mei Feng is in this pool. Um, and that's just how you win Malifaux is scoring points.
Yep.
And there are caveats I could think of where I just wouldn't want to play McCabe, but he's got enough tech that you can usually get some combination of hired minions or henchmen that will play a reasonable enough game into your opponent. And like I said, he just scores more points.
So taking a look at this, we've got Mei Fang never made it for either of you. Yoko didn't make it for either of you. Lynch didn't make it for either of you. Is it a situation where they, as masters and keywords, are suffering, or is it a wealth of riches? And you would, if they put that were in another faction, they'd be a higher tier for you. Why did they not get to the top of any of these pools?
Well, for me, I think Yoko honestly just got done a little dirty by the fact that I like playing her in specific matchups because she has some really good tools.
Fair.
But for me personally, I don't think that she generically scores points well enough for me to be an always grab for me. If you look at the consistency between like what I have put at the top of all of these, they all have really good scheme runners.
Yeah.
Um, and then on top of that, they have a reasonable game plan to run for disruption. And I think Yoko brings one of those really well, which is the disruption piece and the aggression, but kind of falls to the wayside when it's actually time to start tallying. Um, what do you think?
Uh, Yoko, because I do like the title. Yoko, I do have a tendency to lose in very close games, um, and that might just be me. But I like her keyword a lot, and I like the synergy she has with her keyword. But
She easily has the best keyword in the faction, if only because Yan Lo's keyword is in Rezzers.
yes, I was gonna say if some of that was shifted over, it'd be great. But her keywords is great, but her captaining it because she's such a support person, sometimes that can not work out to your benefit. Um, so I tended to put her back. And next time when we do titles, there's a lot of talk there.
Sure.
Well,
She
Sure.
goes a lot with that.
So
Lynch was just
oh,
so
go ahead.
great that I think, again, he just is a support master,
Yep.
and his keyword isn't great unless you bring in some out of keyword things, in my opinion. I have a lot of people around me in my area who think he's amazing, but I've just never seen it.
For me, it was less that Lynch is bad and more that Jan Lo is busted. Um, and
There
like
is a wealth of
sometimes that's just the
riches.
reality of things.
Yeah.
Because like I definitely can have and will play Lynch one into Ley Lines in a pre-title world, um, and had great success with it. Um, but you know, Jan Lo's Jan Lo.
Well, so we've got Yan Lo picked for both of you in two different pools. We've got Asami picked by both of you in two different pools, and we've got McCabe picked by both of you in two different pools, which I think is very interesting. It's also interesting that you noticed that you swapped out your pools with her and with McCabe. So this is going to get to Nick's question from the chat. Nick asks the best OG master. I think McCabe or Misaki. But it sounds like Yan Lo is what everybody's going to pick, or am I off here? Who's the best of all of
Jan
the?
Lo is the best.
Yan Lo's the best, Brian.
I would take McCabe.
Yeah, yeah.
I would not.
Even after the nerf, is just, unless it's a pure killy thing. Right now, I have no problem normally scoring 8 points in almost any pool with McCabe.
All right, so I just got a text message from the guys at Wyrd, and they said that both Landon and Brian are in charge of the next errata. So, Landon, what model in all of Malifaux are you going to give a boost to, and which model in all of Malifaux are you going to give a bane to? Who do you think needs some help, and who do you think is too good right now?
Oh man, I could be generous and give it to another faction, but instead I'm going to give it to Ten Thunder's brother because I forgot that model existed until this errata when I was looking on the list for him and couldn't find him. I'm like, they changed my Terracotta Warrior and they changed the Mole Man, but they forgot about the Ten Thunder's brother. I'd never seen one.
I mean, he's
Like,
named after the faction for crying out loud.
right. And everybody owns one. He comes with Fuhatsu, right? So everybody has three Ten Thunders brothers painted and ready to go, but no one plays them.
Well, they have
Um,
them. I don't know if they're painted and ready to go.
okay, that's fair.
and
Um,
needs to get knocked down a notch, and it can be any titles, any model.
so titles included.
Oh,
Well, that's interesting.
You can only pick
My
one.
first instinct would be to say Yanlo 2 because he's a filthy reser and has too many tools in his toolbox. But after that, I would probably say I want another change to Sparks, or I want Mei
Mm.
Feng 2 nerfed because they both have some problematic interactions, I think.
So it's not a power curve thing. It's just it's that it needs to be cleaned up in your mind.
I mean, it's also quite strong, but like bombs in your belly metal gammon are just really gross when I can take 3 attacks in a turn, miss you all 3 times, and you've still done 4 damage in an AoE. That just doesn't feel good.
Yeah, yeah. How about you, Brian? What model? Let's start with the model you need to knock down a notch.
this is. I'm gonna try to keep it all in Ten Thunders.
No, no, no. I want the whole.
And
I
this
want
is.
all of Malifaux.
I know, but I do think this model needs it. But it's
That's
not
fine.
more than
Yeah,
like
still
Yanlo
limit
too.
yourself.
I'll do a mention to Bill because while I like him a lot, it's mainly his one heroic intervention trigger
Out
that
of
I
gratitude.
think, yeah, it is. I use it way too much. It's so good.
Yeah.
It is
And
very
a
good.
lot of
I don't think it
people,
needs nerfed.
he can single-handedly with his heroic intervention change games. But Yanlo 2 is also just a problem currently. I piloted him my first time. I've had people pilot him for the first time and just go, "Oh, this is so easy to play this game and do so much."
Yeah.
And what model needs to see the table more in all of Malifaux?
I'm gonna give a shout out to Yasunori, who would like to see back on the table. I have a wonderfully painted Yasunori model, but he just never, for 11 points, can see the table.
I take
That's
my
all.
vote back? I want to change it to Yasunori. Brian's got the right of it here. Ugh.
Oh, that's
I,
fun.
I
Well,
agreed
gentlemen,
that he did need to get touched a little bit, but I want
he
to
got
just
buried.
play him.
Yeah, yeah. Well, gentlemen, this was great. I think it gives us a nice overview of the entire faction. We got to dig into some of the strengths, some of the weaknesses. Brian, before we wrap up, do you have any shout outs or plugs you want?
Uh, I'll do 2 shout outs to the Dragon Roost and to Gamers Wharf, 2 local game stores. I try to travel in opposite directions to go hang out with people. Cole and James Hahn are the 2 henchmen that kind of run those areas. So
Good guys.
just a shout out to those. I know the Grand Rapids area has a tournament coming up in May. So if you're anywhere can drive to Michigan, you can get up there. I think, or no, yeah,
Yeah.
early May.
Cole and Han are both good guys. How about for you, Landon? Any shout outs or plugs?
If I had a pair of shout outs and plugs, I'm going to start by plugging the Malifaux Vassal World Series people, or Vassal in general. I know for a lot of us, they kept the hobby alive during the pandemic.
They
For
sure
me,
did.
certainly. And thus, I then want to also plug the channel, which I also create content with, Badfo Haku. We record games of Vassal and put it on YouTube for your viewing pleasure. And then we also do some fun things like hot take tier lists or other records, sometimes in conjunction with the Schemes and Stones guys. Give us a listen.
Very, very cool. All right. For all of you guys who are in the chat, I really appreciate the interaction. For those of you that have watched the recording later, either here on Twitch or on YouTube, I appreciate you watching the whole damn thing. Stay tuned, like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. But take care, guys. Howdy, friends. Thank you for watching. All our content is archived and organized in playlists on the Third Floor Wars YouTube channel. Check it out. And if you could like, follow, subscribe, and even set your notifications to this channel on YouTube and Twitch, we'd appreciate it, and it'll make sure that you catch all of our content. I talk with creators, designers, and experts across the gaming landscape in every episode of our podcast, Tabletop Talk. Open up your favorite podcatcher and search for Tabletop Talk from Third Floor Wars. Support your creators. They make the content you love, and it's your support that makes it happen. If you want to help us, go to Third Floor Wars on patreon.com, and you can help us for as little as $1 a month. Thanks again. We'll see you next time. Take care.